bear witness to my testimony. The things that I have done, unforgivable. The prayers of 100 priests could not save my soul. Like the sun of the morning, boasting a multitude of sins.
Hey everybody, what's up and welcome to episode 75 of Into the Necrosphere. Making her return to the show today is the inimitable Kelly T of Kelly T Black Metal Reviews. She has a channel on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube where she covers a ton of really, really cool, obscure underground bands. Bands that even I, with all of my extensive knowledge of all things necro, have yet to be able to uncover. And if you don't yet follow her channel on a regular basis, then definitely make sure that you do, because I think aside from black metal promotions, there's probably not a better source of great new music to be found anywhere on the internets. She and I spoke about a bunch of the bands that she's been into recently, and we also covered a load of other topics, so really fun having her around. I am sure you guys are all going to agree. I'm also going to be doing a couple of reviews straight after that conversation. The new Drugoth, a band which she actually mentioned, and I thought that I needed to check out, and then a band out of Jackson, Michigan called Throne, who have just put out a fantastic debut called Pestilent Dawn. I'll be talking about those shortly after the conversation. A few other announcements as well. Last week I mentioned that I had a very big guest lined up, and now that interview is in the bank, I am very pleased to announce that my guest next week is going to be David Ellefson of Megadeth. Huge guest for me, and frankly speaking, I'm shocked that he even responded when I reached out to him on Instagram. We've actually been following each other for a couple of years, and God knows why he follows me back. But anyway, I dropped him a line, asked him if he would be interested in coming on. Recorded the episode about 4 days ago, and what a surprisingly enjoyable chat that ended up being. So that's going to come your way next week, and then I've also got a couple of others in the pipeline. I'll announce those as they get recorded and as they get done. But in the meantime, if you're short of things to listen to, there are 74 other excellent episodes that you should be checking out, including my conversations with Aaron Stainthorpe of My Dying Bride, last week's episode with Jesse Mathewson of Ken Mode. So again, if you're new to the podcast, do dig into those archives, because there's some really, really great stuff in there. Another thing to talk to you guys about is I finally got round to uploading a new design for or into my Teespring merch store. So I was toying around with a couple of different ideas and ended up deciding to do a series where I'm going to be collaborating with different artists that I find through my network or through Instagram or wherever. And then what I'm going to do is have probably every 2 to 3 months I'll bring out another one, or another range of t-shirts or hoodies or whatever the case may be. In this instance, I connected with an Indonesian artist called Death or Dark of Necroy, very nice guy, who is into the show, sent me a couple of examples of his work, and then came up with a really, really cool design, which if you head to the Teespring store right now, you can get in t-shirt, hoodie, jogger, ladies t-shirt, and various other forms. So check that out. The way I'm going to do the artist collabs are they're going to be numbered as well. So you'll have the design on the front, and then you'll kind of have a number on the back to say which edition it is. Obviously in this instance, this will be number 1, and so on and so forth. And then I'll probably kind of keep them on for a limited period of time to coerce people to buy and collect them all. But if you really do want to support the show, then head over to Teespring and pick yourself up some merchandise. And all of the money that you put into that, I then use to upgrade things like this fancy ass microphone that I'm speaking into right now. Finally, just a reminder that if you don't yet follow the show on social media, then please do. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you like what you hear, and you are in a band and you think that you could benefit from being featured on my hallowed demo of the week segment, then drop me a line on into the necrosphere at gmail.com, and I may feature you on the show. And if I really like you, who knows, you may even end up being a guest. On that note, I would like to welcome back to the show for the second time, and definitely not the last, Kelly T of Kelly T Black Metal Reviews. I generally will always kind of tee up beforehand with somebody, like, is there something you don't want to talk about? Is there something I need to avoid? And politics is almost always the one that comes up. So now I just preemptively say I'm not going to talk about politics. But I find some of the pseudo activism that you find in the metal scene at the moment, it kind of crops up in fits and starts. Generally speaking, I can't fucking stand it. And I understand there's a legacy of bands being political and being outspoken politically, but in 2021 it just feels so fucking boring. It's on a par for me with bands that still sing about women being murdered. It's like, how many more times can I read some stupid childish horror lyric, um and then have the band go, oh, we're not really murderers, it's just a story. It's like, well, you've been telling the same fucking story now for 15 albums. I am tired of hearing it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I don't
sorry, I just went on like a 1 minute rant, and I haven't even let you say hello yet.
I get where you're coming from. I really do. I'm a bit weird like that though, because I'm a big horror fiend. So
Same,
yeah, and I don't mind that whole violent lyrical content. I understand that it is a part of particularly death metal and genres like that. But yeah, I think people have to be a bit more careful now, unfortunately. But it's just how it is. So
yeah.
yeah.
I'm a horror fan as well. I would say, I think I was reading this article last night, and they were interviewing Wankstain Corey Taylor about some stupid zombie versus ninja movie he was making, and he was talking about how it's a gonzo horror comedy, and I was like, now I'm starting to really hone in on the difference between my views on horror and the average moron's view of horror. I don't want anything comedic in a horror movie. I don't want to bluff. I don't want any of that kind of, the wink to the camera that you had, particularly from those 90s horror movies, like, I Know What You Did Last Summer and all that bullshit.
Yes, yeah.
Like something I want to see something that grips me intensely. I don't want not a Serbian film, but something like Hereditary for me, which has a bit of gore, but there's such a dark and such a human story at the core of it. That for me, I mean, I mentioned that movie so many times, but that to me is
great movie,
quintessential horror, and that's something that the South Koreans, as I've also said many times on the show, get right so well time and time again, much more so than Hollywood does. But again, when they come up with a story, however far-fetched and crazy it is, they fucking commit.
They do it right. Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, it's so funny because I'm so desensitized. I've been watching horror for so long. So it really takes something pretty special in the horror genre to give me a bit of a creep or make me think about it afterward. But it's half the horrors now, I don't even think mean to be funny, but they just are a lot of the time because it's so cliche and comical. But I actually haven't seen a Serbian film yet. I think I mean, it's not one that I'm looking forward to seeing just from what I've heard, but I feel like I need to just experience it. I know that it has some underlying messages to it, and it's obviously going to be very shocking, but it's one that I have to be very in the mood for something like that, knowing that it's probably going to play on my mind afterward in a not so good way. So
as soon as I saw baby rape, I was like, okay, check me out of this bullshit. I think for me it's just it's fucked up. I don't want to see anything like that.
It's not really necessary, is it, really, to put something like that in there?
Fuck no, man. I mean, I don't care what your underlying theme is. It's like making a movie where you're that's pro, Nazi skinheads, and you're going, well, there's underlying themes here. It's like, well, you're still a piece of shit for depicting it the way that you are.
Yeah.
Or like Human Centipede. I mean, I can't remember whether whether the director there claimed there were any underlying themes, but I mean, Human Centipede 2 was like that was the ceiling of fucked up as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's like, again, there's movies that are far more brutal, but actually have, like I Saw the Devil, I personally think is a far more brutal movie, but there's impact to it. There's emotional weight to the story. There's characters that you connect with. I mean, Human Centipede 2, I would take the entire cast and the fucking director, and I would airdrop them over the Congo and say, there you go. You're about to experience a horror movie of your very own. But yeah, it's as I said, I just feel like the knowing wink when it comes to horror, I don't like. I want something to be, and it's kind of the same with music. I want to be semi-convinced with what I see on stage. I mean, I know the Satan and the demons and the evil and stuff is, the vast majority of people I've spoken to who, are openly pushing it on records, don't have any of, or don't harbor any of those views, except Michael from Fredenstall. But at the very least, like I said, I want to be convinced that what you're saying means something to you, and for me, like I'd rather have something like, when I think of death metal as an example, Dying Fetus, wrong one to fuck with. You can tell John means what he's saying there.
Yeah.
Whereas, how many more times am I going to have to hear about, like I said, some woman being murdered and killed? And there's nothing, maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but it's nothing, there's nothing for me to connect in that. I can't personally connect with any of those lyrics. I've got no fucking interest in hearing about about somebody being, savagely mutilated or whatever the case may be. Like, I'd much rather then go for the, werewolves lyrics, which are consciously fucked up. But, again, you know the place where it's coming from.
Yeah.
By the way, just on the topic of death metal, how fucking good is that new werewolves record?
It's pretty fucking good. Yeah, it's very good, actually. Yeah. I reviewed that not too long ago, and I still put that record on. I mean, most albums that I review, I will come back to it, but there's more that you come back to more often. And just the production of that album was just like world class, and for a band that's really, I know they're all very accomplished musicians, but they've only really recently just come together, and they're incredible. Yeah. Absolutely incredible. I think you and I were talking about that before, that album is like something from a big band that's been around for a really long time.
Yeah, well, I mean, one must remember as well, they've been doing it they have been playing together in various iterations for a period of time. They know each other well. They obviously have a good chemistry, but there is still something very special to me in the fact that, Matt can pick up a guitar and come up with better riffs in the space of a day than a lot of bands can do, will ever dream of doing for an entire career. And just broadly, I mean, generally speaking, there's a real renaissance, or not even renaissance, but there's like a real surge of great stuff coming out of Australia this year. Like for me, the Spire record that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago is phenomenal. The Amenta. You've not listened to the new Spire yet?
Not yet, no. I'm so inundated with so many albums. I'm trying to get to them. But yeah, Revelator is off its face. Absolutely love that album. Mentor, great guys too. They're so humble, and they're very professional guys. That's for sure.
Super pro, but I mean, I've connected with them way back when Pocast came out, based off the very goggly-eyed review that I did for it on Chronicles of Chaos. So it's been cool for me to see the evolution of them as a band. And I think when Seer Money came out, I think everyone was kind of like, what are they doing? Is this going to be, a record that's extreme? And actually, I think they've retained some of the extreme elements, but they've actually made those extreme elements more effective because they've added in so much more color and so much more diversity to what they're doing. You kind of have these almost like bluesy bits that come in. They're experimenting more with electronics. I think what Kane is doing with his voice is so interesting because he's such a multifaceted vocalist. It would have been a complete waste to have him screaming his head off for 45 minutes on a record.
Yeah. I was a little bit, because I don't hide the fact I'm a bit hit and miss with cleans in my extreme metal, but for me, what Kane did in Revelator, just there was such an atmosphere when he did his cleans,
Mm.
and it was kept still really mean and savage. Nothing went light about it when those cleans came in, and that's to me, they just did it so right.
That's
So
the
yeah,
thing with
that's a
clean
great album.
vocals. Yeah, like I
Mm.
said, that's the thing with clean vocals. You can so easily sound like you can make a really, or you can really pull the guts out of a great heavy track by throwing in something clean. So it needs to be kept very either sparse, or you need to be somebody like Aaron Stainthorpe or Nick Holmes from My Dying Bride that just can pull it off. There's some people that just have the ability to pull it off and make a track sound
Oh
great,
yeah,
no matter how well well the delivery is. Because technically, as singers, Aaron and Nick are absolutely first class.
mm. Yeah,
Did you
absolutely.
have you watched My Dying Bride interview yet, or my Dying Bride interview yet?
I haven't yet, so I've got that earmarked for Friday night, my ritual. Which
The
we,
Friday night into the Necrosphere ritual. I couldn't believe when you said that.
yeah, I love it because it's just my time to switch off, and sorry, this is probably getting a bit personal, but just have a bath, have a glass of wine, put Into the Necrosphere on, and yeah, no one interrupts, and it's really good. I love it. It's a great,
No,
great
I'm glad you're enjoying it, and yeah, I just brought up the Aaron Stainthorpe interview because as far as episodes I've recorded with somebody, I've very rarely gotten off a call having felt that good about. And like generally speaking, if you've got a good connection with somebody, like when we spoke, immediately I knew, okay, this is going to work well. It doesn't feel like I'm having to force the conversation or drag stuff out of you.
yeah,
But obviously with someone like that, they do a lot more interviews. They're a lot more jaded to the whole process, and he's also been through a rough time, but it just, like I said, it worked. The only big thing is I had to edit out my emotional wellspring
gosh,
that popped up there at one point. I was like, you can, yeah, if there's still a part where you can hear my voice cracking a little bit,
oh,
but the worst of it is taken away. I was like, I've got a reputation to uphold. I can't keep this whole fucking thing in.
out.
Yeah, but what's been going on with you otherwise? I mean, your black metal review stuff is going from strength to strength. I see you're doing more interviews. Clearly the male stalker ratio is upping continually. What's up in Kelly T's world?
Yeah, well, pretty much what you said. I mean, the reviews are still pushing ahead. We've got a few changes that we're wanting to mix up a little bit coming very soon. Maybe looking at just doing one or two big albums that people have been waiting for a month. That's just based on feedback that I've been given from people that follow me and friends. So I'm taking all that on board because obviously what people want to see is important as well.
So what do you mean by that? Is it like you'd limit yourself to doing 2 reviews a week rather than kind of the album of the week cycle that you've been on at the moment?
So my main focus is the underground, the lesser known,
Yeah.
but what we thought we might start to do is also incorporate just those big albums that come out that people are really waiting for, just for something different. And, talking about those big albums might bring a little bit more traffic to our YouTube as well. And then it's more exposure for those underground bands. So there's a little bit of method in the madness.
Yeah.
But that's just something that we're tossing up. I've actually been working really hard this year with Sam, my good friend from Metal Sydney Metal, who runs a community group out of Sydney, a metal group out of Sydney. So we've been putting on some pretty awesome festivals in Sydney at the Crowbar, which has been really exciting. And we've had 2 so far that were a big success, which were Dystopian Prophecies 1 and 2. Fucking wicked lineups. I'm so gobsmacked that these bands were just willing to come onto our lineup. I mean, we're both novice when it comes to putting on shows, but we work really well together, and that's moving forward. We've got another one coming up, Invocation Rituals, in May,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got a really big Aussie extreme metal band booked in for September, which I won't announce yet, but yeah, I'm pretty excited about that one. That's going to be a
Does
big
their
one.
name rhyme with Samantha?
It doesn't, but we would love to have them on one of our bills. That's for sure. Logistically, it's a little bit hard for them at the moment because they've got people in other countries at the moment, so it's a little bit hard for them to play live. But yeah, it is a very well-known Aussie extreme metal band that are just off their face live. So very, very excited for that. And then we have another one in June as well. So it's all happening.
So I'll actually, two questions I want to ask you. So one, I definitely agree with you on the strategy around, getting on some of the bigger names so that you can, hopefully have more eyeballs on the show and therefore get more attention for some of the smaller bands. I mean, I deliberately do it. Like if people, follow generally how I'll stagger episodes, like if I've got a lineup like I have now, I'll do Aaron Stainthorpe, and then the week after Michael from Fred and Stoll, because I know there'll be people that will come back because hopefully some additional subscribers that come back because of the My Dying Bride interview, and then hopefully they see Fred and Stoll and they think, oh, this is pretty good. I did the same with Gravier. I had Sam Loynes, who I know always attracts quite a reasonable amount of people that will check out an episode, and then immediately thereafter you get Gravier on, and it was the same with why I wanted to speak to them also, but why I got Johnny Kelly, Donald Tardy, and those people on. The idea is get attention and then use that as a means to talk about to expose a smaller band. Or also when I do those interviews with a bigger name folks, I'll tend to try and do reviews of bands that I think deserve exposure. So like the new Shrines EP as an example, I included that on the Aaron Stainthorpe episode because again, I think it's a great EP and I think they deserve exposure. Same with a New Zealand band that I included on that episode called Blindfolded and Led to the Woods, which I think is, I cannot fucking believe how that band is not signed. It's like one of the most perfect death metal records I've heard since The Last Werewolves. It's astounding to me that they are still independent.
They're brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, it ran through my head a little bit. I'll probably cop a bit of flack, the whole sellout thing, because I do really harness the whole underground scene and the lesser known. I've got, look, we love and know those bands that we grew up with and we have so much respect for. And there's so many people that just get caught in that. But it's so important to keep discovering. It's the only way the scene can survive and the bands can survive. But it'll be fun just to mix it up. And it's only going to be one a month, or maybe I think Vinny and I will just alternate, doing one each a month, and we'll just see how it goes.
No, well, it's not like you're reviewing a Mogwai album, like Banger did recently. That to me is a sellout. That's like I like Depeche Mode very much, but I'm actually, let's be frank, if I could get any of the Depeche Mode guys on the show, I don't give a fuck if it's called Into the Necrosphere. I'd do that straight away. But I mean, have you ever had any accusations of being a sellout or not being down for the cause or anything like that?
Not really, not being a sellout or not down for the cause. I get very good support, I have to say, by the community. I think I was talking to you the first time around some of the snide comments I used to get when my videos would be floating around social media. I don't remember the last time someone's kind of come in on the attack like that. I think people have gotten used to my face, gotten used to my style, gotten used to what I'm doing. And I think just because I've been so consistent and persistent, because I'm, I don't like to give up, and I certainly don't give up just because a few people have a bit of butt hurt that a chick's talking black metal. It actually drives me harder to go, well, I'm not going anywhere.
Wow.
Expect a lot more. But yeah, I don't really cop that, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
I cop lots of, as you know,
male
comment.
admirers.
Yeah, but I'm really thick-skinned, and I just, it's water off a duck's back to me, as long as they're not being completely, vile. And put it this way, they don't do that on my feeds. They tend to leave that for the DMs, which just always.
God. Well, we need to talk about that in a second. But I must admit, actually, for Into the Necrosphere, I've been very lucky, and I don't know whether it's I'm not sure why I've kind of been as fortunate as I've been as far as the community of people that have sprung up around the around the podcast, but I've genuinely never had a message where someone is being obnoxious. I've never had someone comment about anything obnoxious. Once in a while, you get somebody who gives your video a thumbs down, but I mean, again, the majority of the people that listen to the show listen to it on Spotify or Apple. I mean, as a matter of fact, Spotify is the biggest channel by far. But so, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever the case may be, the people that are giving it a thumbs down don't really give a shit. I
No,
think
that's
a
it.
couple of folks probably took offense to what I was talking to Nick Sagis about, because we did talk politics, but at the same time, I think most people with any sort of reasonable intelligence, realize that it's a discussion, number one, and number two, most of it's coming from a good place. At the end of the day, we're like-minded. We want to see people do well. Maybe our views don't always, align as far as how we think we would get there. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I feel like most of the people that listen to the show probably think about things in the same way that I do.
Hmm.
And I do truly hope that they appreciate the fact that I genuinely don't give a fuck. This is my show. I'm consciously not aligning myself to any sort of label, any sort of industry stuff. There's certain labels I like and I talk about, but I'm not beholden to anybody. And I'm not going to, ask people for Patreon donations or any such bullshit. I do this entirely for myself and hopefully for the entertainment of the people that check it out every week. But beyond that, I don't give a shit. I'll have on whoever I want to have on the show. Same with the music I talk about.
I think that, a friend said to me once when I don't know, maybe 12 months ago, there was or it might have even been a bit longer, but I was really copping it for about a week off just random people, not on Instagram. It's an awesome community, but when people share my videos into other groups, that's used to be where it would come from. And it might have got me down a little bit, if I admit, just slightly, just because it was like, God, these motherfuckers, like, I'm a person, they're just being assholes, but whatever. And he said to me, when you think about all the people who are positive and supportive, that's really only a drop in the ocean compared to all the positive things. And it gave me really good perspective. And I look at it that way now. I sort of, someone wants to have a shot or be negative, whatever. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore.
I mean, you do a fantastic job, and you heard the conversation that Evan and I had, when it turned to you. I mean, I've picked up stuff from the videos that you do. I mean, you're in terms of your cult credentials, your cult credentials, I think go far deeper than mine. That's for sure.
No way.
You've never had someone from Static X on the show, but and again, no apologies. I still think the first Static X album is brilliant, but as far as people wanting to give you a hard time, if they can, organically build the same size community, same size channel, have the same amount of reach that you can, and show you how to do it better, then they've got some license to talk, but beyond that, they can fuck right off.
Fuck all the way off. I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And like I said, I genuinely think you do a brilliant job, which is why I encourage you to do more, interviews, and I mean, frankly, I think if you invested in decent, camera equipment and stuff like that, and really, I know you've got a job as well, so you're probably like me and just very, very busy and you don't have time for that. But I know at least you've got a somewhat better backdrop than and mine, which I do. I've got a green screen, obviously, which I use when I do the intros and things like that. But I mean, I've got fucking family portraits. The other day, I noticed when I can't remember who I interviewed, but I had my fucking daughter's doll's house in the background. I'm like, good God, maybe I can write that off as like the dollhouse on Hereditary. It's like, yeah, somehow I managed to get hold of the prop.
Culture.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think you could be as big or bigger than something like Banger. I really do. I mean, I think Banger is all right, but I think there are a couple of those presenters that I feel are somewhat try hard. Again, some of them are very cool, but and they're all coming from a good place at the end of the day. But and again, also I respect the fact that they built up such a community, and they've built up a good thriving channel. But
they certainly
it's not
have.
necessarily what I would gravitate towards immediately when it comes to going on YouTube.
Yeah, right. Oh, well, thank you, Jackie. That's very, very kind. Oh, you scratch my ear from here.
Well, again, I'm also as much as I listen to negative music and I despise most of the world, I do think that the people around you that you get on with, I think it's very important based on the ratio of assholes to people that are interesting and worth talking to. I think I think it's important that you inject positivity into or project positivity towards those people, and I make a point of trying to tell people why I appreciate them, and I appreciate the fact they're in my life, and I why I get on with them and stuff like that. And that's part of the best. That's one of the best things about doing this is the friends that I've made. Mike,
Yeah, absolutely.
Evan, he's a badass guy. Marco from Stellar Master Elite, and there's so many people that you sort of hit it off with, and you realize how much you have in common with, and it's nice knowing that, and it's nice kind of having that reciprocated. And again, that's why I'm not shy in coming forward about how I feel about something, or as I said, from time to time, even getting a little emotional about it.
Yeah, well, you're human, and there's nothing wrong with that at
and I'm
all.
also 41, but I can still throw. So if people want to talk shit, they're gonna get a hit. So I would. Getting around to the DMs. Once in a while, obviously, you post and there's like somebody who's literally gone through all 5,000 pictures and like. So what's the craziest shit that you've had sent to you by anyone sliding up into them DMs?
Well, oh fuck, it gets weird. But. Okay, so today, actually, I was just telling a good friend of mine, but today I opened up a video of a man wanking.
Oh, wow. What?
Yeah, with my story photo in the corner. That happens sometimes. And
so it's happened multiple times.
Oh, yeah. And generally I'll just block them, or depending on my mood, like I'll just ignore them or block them. But today I was like, you know what? This guy is getting off on the fact that I've seen this. So I replied and I said to him, I'm sorry, I can't open this attachment. Could you resend it? Which he did. And I replied again and said, no, it's still not working. Are you in a band? Is this a track that you're trying to send? Are you wanting me to share something? Completely playing dumb to it, but also letting him know that I still haven't seen this video. And he sent it again. And I just came back and said, look, if you want to email my Kelly T Black Metal reviews, I can have a look at the song there. Like I just completely, and he ended up unfollowing me and just leaving me alone. So I sort of took the fun away from him, as far as, because I guess people that do that without permission are getting off on the fact that you've got no choice but to see it, because you're going to click on it and there they are. So I tried that.
So I've often wondered about that, because you look at internets and you see some of the crazy shit that men post, in response to women's posts, and it's always like, under a bunch of the influencers, which is where it is at its most pathetic. I was talking to Jesse Mathewson about this as well last night. It'll be like, some porn star or some fitness model or whatever, fully made up, looking like an absolute, front cover of a magazine, with a slight pout, going, having an ugly day today. And then the throng of fucking nitwits that rush in and like, oh babe, you're amazing, hun, are you okay? I'm there for you if you need to talk. And you just wonder to yourself, does somebody, and this applies to the wanking video as well, does this guy at some point go, because everyone behaves on incentive, right? They like, you feel like there's potential payoff for you. That's why you're hungry, so you eat. The incentive is you're going to feel full. So does somebody at some point go, if I send this video of myself jacking it to Kelly, she's suddenly going to go, oh my God, this changes everything. I'm so, firstly,
marry me.
Firstly, I'm I'm just so honored that you'd consider me for a video like this. And secondly, I just want to experience that in person. It's nuts. It's like I said, it's the guys that like, hey, are you okay? It's like, do they seriously think that of the 10,000, 20,000, million people that look at that photo, the woman in question is going to suddenly go, fuck, this guy with his, this fatso with his video games in the background and he's chips in his lap on most of his photos with these weird, like blurry, out of focus selfies. This is the man for me. He's different to the others.
Yeah, I often wonder that, and I sort of think, that exact thing. Like, one, what makes them just think that they can send that, and two, what do they expect me to do? I mean, it makes me wonder: do they do this and get some positive reaction from some women? Probably.
Yes, that's exactly what I've wondered sometimes. Is like at some point I mean, maybe it's just an urban myth. Somebody said if you do this 100 times, and at number 100, the woman will go, "Yes, you're amazing."
Yeah, I mean, like I said to you, I am very thick-skinned. My mind can be the most down in the gutter sometimes with the best of the men drinking in the pub. But so, when I get something like that, it's just like, oh God, it's a roll of the eye, or it's a laugh, or it's a, but it's not right. Like it's not right for me at all. But yeah, I just thought I'd give that little method a try this time, just to kind of remove the whole thrill of me actually having seen what I saw.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, there's freaks of all shapes and sizes on the internet. So I have spoken about this on the podcast a couple of times, and one day maybe I'll reveal what the page was. Some people that listen to this know what it was, but I commented for about and it was only me running it. I ran a page for about probably 5-6 years. It's still up on Facebook. A satirical page where I pretended to be a Christian pastor that was deeply against metal, and the shit that people sent me. Oh my God. I had one where I posted a meme, and I would always post these I used to call them think pieces. I posted this thing where I said that, like Andy Biersack, the fucking dickhead from Black Veil Brides. So I posted a thing where I said that Andy, because he's bringing out a solo album at the time, and I posted this picture, exposed. Andy Biersack and Andy Black are the same person. I had somebody send me. He sent me 37 messages in the space of about 5 minutes, begging me to take it down, saying, please take this down. Please don't say anything about Andy. Please take this down. As I just repeatedly, brum, 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 brum. And then eventually the post got banned I can't remember whether they said inciting violence or just violating community standards. So I just reposted it, and then they just left it up. So obviously someone must have, this moron or somebody, or others of his ilk in the Black Veil Brides army, they must have complained about it enough to where, the buffoons at Facebook said, well, this is really hurtful. So, this horrible man is insulting Black Veil Brides. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that was just one. I had one person once send me a message saying, because I frequently, and I've spoken about this on a podcast recently as well, I frequently would rile up Christians as well by saying that if you have tattoos, or if you listen to any sort of metal, you're going straight to hell. No such thing as Christian metal. This girl sent me this message saying, I have tattoos. I mean, and this, again, you got 100 of these a day, because I had a very, very big following on there. So you get at least 100 of these a day. But I'm a Christian and I have tattoos, and I can tell you, I'm not going to hell. So I decided, okay, I'm going to really go to town here. So I said, you're obviously lying. I can see in the background of the photo that you've sent that there's a man with a gun who's forcing you to say these things. And she's like, no, there isn't. I don't know how you're seeing it. And I said, there obviously is. I've seen it. I've already reported it to the authorities. And she's like, there isn't. Then she started posting these videos. Like she would hold the camera up and she'd go, as you can see, there's no one around me. I'm not being forced to say this. And I'd be like, that's a likely story. He's probably just off camera threatening to kill your family.
You're a sadist, Jackie. I love it.
It's like, is he into metal too? I mean, the reason I did it, and again, like I said, one day I've often thought, like I've toyed with the idea, but I suspect that probably the nutcases that will come out of the fucking woodwork if I do like publicly go out and go onto the page and go, come and have a gander at my podcast if you want to see who the person behind this is. I think the weirdos might mean that I have to go into fucking seclusion or something, but the part of the reason I did it was it's literally like a prank call that just doesn't end. It's like a 5-year prank call that just stays funny.
Yeah. Is it still active? The
I don't post on it anymore. No, I don't have the time. It's still there. And once in a while I check in to see some of the crazy shit that gets posted. The flip side to it is the really kind of I actually did make a couple of friends through it, and people that messaged me back and forth, and I eventually started messaging them back, and said I connected with them on Facebook and said, this, just so you know, this is who I actually am, and they're like, they some people are wise to the joke pretty quickly. But I mean, frankly, if people bother looking it up, I think they've taken the page down now. But the very infamous Christians Against Slipknot page, I used to post on theirs myself all the time. I went again. I thought to myself, like, how can you fall for the shit that I'm saying when literally, if you look at my page, you'll see a bunch of metal stuff. I had one guy who was losing it, like threatening to beat me up, and he was going to kill me and things like that. And these are public comments. So I was like, fine, tough stuff. It's like I said, I then like challenged. He lived in the UK as well. I challenged him to a fight. I had somebody like film me like working out on the pads. I created like a poster and said, I'm going to be at this venue at such and such a time. You better be too. And then he's like, oh, I didn't really mean it. I was just angry. I was like, too late now.
Love it.
And then the guy blocked me, so obviously I had to start speaking through others.
Oh no, you're relentless. I love it.
Fucking hysterical. But yeah, like I said, I mean, I just don't understand how gullible people can be about certain things.
Oh, yes, exactly. It's hilarious. That's so funny. My cheeks are aching from that.
I'll tell you offline what the page is. You can have a look. I sometimes go back and read some of the stuff, and I can't believe how it came out of my own. It came out of my head. I'm like it's. I mean, I'll obviously laugh at it, but it's like, how can you even come up with this bullshit? I had one guy once message me, and you could see that he was currently incarcerated. He was like messaging from some other prison. And he, again, he's like, blah, 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 just wait until I get out. I'm going to kill you. I was like, fortunately, mate, or unfortunately for you, mate, real life isn't Call of Duty 2. Which also sent him over the rails. But hilarious. One thing we need to talk about, which we said last time we were going to discuss, and I've been thinking about this again recently, is AC/DC. So yes. I know you're a big AC/DC fan, so we'll throw out some random AC/DC stuff. So first and foremost, what, in your opinion, is the most overlooked in the AC/DC discography? The most criminally overlooked album in the AC/DC discography?
Oh, I don't know if it's my favorite, and it's probably not one that people talk about all the time, but it's maybe. I mean, for me, AC/DC was the starting point for me when I was 7. I think I told you the story where I was listening to Wham and I heard Dad playing Highway to Hell, and then the Wham tape went up on the shelf, never to return.
The Wham tape went out the window.
Oh no, I still love Wham. Like, you put Wake Me Up Before You Go on and I'm going to dance. But for me, I think my favorite album was Who Made Who. I'm not sure if that's one that's criminally overlooked though, but it's probably not.
That's almost like a greatest hits though, because they used that for Maximum Overdrive, that very shit Stephen King movie. Yeah.
So I had a t-shirt, I think I was telling you, based on that album and everything. I don't know which one really. I mean, I love Highway to Hell, Black in Black, but I'm not sure which one might be overlooked because I didn't really keep up with AC/DC moving forward. Once I discovered Pantera and all of those bands, It's one of those bands that I can still listen to and enjoy, but I probably don't go and throw them on now. I know you're probably going to think.
No. Well, I mean, I listen to so. I mean, I will go back to some of the stuff from time to time, but I mean, it's not like their recent stuff is, I don't sit here going, oh, amazing, another AC/DC record. Let's put that Panzerfaust to the side for now.
Yeah.
But the one record that I will always have a soft spot for, and it's the most reviled album possibly in the AC/DC discography, and I, for the life of me, cannot get why, is Fly on the Wall.
Yes.
It's like, for me, I'm a Bon Scott guy. I think Bon Scott era AC/DC vastly superior to Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson is a cool dude. I really like that Brian Johnson YouTube show that he did where he meets up with his mates and talk shit. He just seems like such a nice guy and such a humble guy, considering how massive of a band AC/DC is. But my problem with Brian Johnson era AC/DC was that invariably a lot of I think it's because they entered the 80s and everything started getting more polished and more overproduced. But a lot of the kind of edge that just a slight whiff of menace that you have in those Bon Scott records, it's absent from Brian Johnson era albums, with the exception of Fly on the Wall. Like Fly on the Wall, there's still like something mean about the riffs. There's like this lingering like nastiness to some of the riffs. I mean, the track Fly on the Wall is fucking amazing. Danger is amazing. Come Hell or High Water is fucking brilliant. It's like I've just never understood why people dislike that album the way that they do.
Yeah. I think going back to Bon Scott, he for me was the ultimate sound for AC/DC as well.
Yeah.
There was something, I don't know how to even describe it. There was something almost sleazy about the way he sounded.
Yeah, I agree.
So unique, and he just had this. Like, no one sounds like Bon Scott. He had a completely unique voice, and it was tragic, obviously, when what happened to him. But those albums in that era would be my favorite as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still think Brian Johnson did a great job and whatnot, but I probably drifted away from AC/DC in the 80s and in that era.
Yeah.
So I was doing like playing catch up to all the albums, because as I said, I was only 7 when I first discovered them. So, but I was, thought it was the best thing I'd ever heard. I felt so, I remember feeling like you'd hear those Gothic bells introduced to Hell's Bells, and I'd turn it up really loud. I just thought I was such a dark badass. Like, not much has changed.
Yeah. No, I remember hearing Thunderstruck the first time, and as I said, it's like a fucking, no pun intended, it's like a lightning rod beaming down straight at you from the sky. It's like, I've the Christians would say, he's been activated.
It translates what that song is about. And I think AC/DC were really good at that, because they were, like you had Malcolm doing pretty bluesy type riffs, but they were sped up and a lot heavier than traditional blues. And then you had, Angus doing his incredible solos and riffs going on as well. But they were quite simple, really. Maybe not the solos, but the actual riff that used to carry through the whole song. They were so simple, but they were just written to be remembered and written to be really catchy and just stick in your head. So when that first, start of the track and that riff takes off to any of their tracks, you just know it's AC/DC. It's just so unique.
Did the whole AC/DC is satanic and the worst band on the face of the earth, did that kind of pass by Australia, or was that a thing there also?
It was a thing. I mean, I remember my friend who was her mum was Christian, and I would. Her brother was a good friend of mine, and he would introduce me to a lot of music as we got older. And she was very against me playing AC/DC in the house because it was satanic music. And at that point, I was probably 8 at the time, 9. I didn't have a fucking clue what she was on about. I thought, what the hell? It's just music. To me, this is just really good music. But she was quite offended and laid the law down that I'm not to play that in the house. It's the devil's music. And okay. But as far as, we
have a, in Bloemfontein where I grew up, it is, it is literally like fucking Utah, as I said before, Utah without the sinners. But the I had one incident which I'll never forget for as long as I live, and I'm still connected to the girl on Facebook now. I think she's hopefully simmered down a little bit. When I was about 14 years old, a girl that I who was my girlfriend for about a week or so, she was digging through my bag to get something out. We were at somebody's house swimming and just usual teenager shit. And she saw I had a Metallica, a Wasp, and a Iron Maiden CD in my bag, and she's like, "What is this?" I was like, "It's my music and stuff I listen to that I really like." And she's like, "Well, you're gonna have to make a choice. It's either me or this garbage."
Goodbye.
And so naturally I said to her, "Well, I think that, this is probably where we'll be parting ways." Anyway, AC/DC was they were in South Africa for a while. Like literally, if you listen to them, I mean, we had a teacher openly say to the class, and she was fucking dead serious when she said this to a group of 16 and 17-year-olds, saying, if you listen to AC/DC in your house, then if you are at a high enough level of Christianity, I mean, I don't know if she thought that Christianity is like fucking Elder Scrolls, World of Warcraft. You gain powers as you become more faithful, but it's like, if you're at a high enough level of Christianity, you can see demons flying out of the speakers and then angels descending on them to keep the household safe. And astonishingly, sane people who now currently roam the streets freely and have given birth to children and families, they all sat there, "I can't believe it." And this was also on top of, if you set the box for Diablo 2 on fire, you can see demons flying out of the flames. I mean, that's the kind of fucking mental shit that went on around me. I had do you remember? Sorry, you were going to say?
Oh no, I was just going to say, maybe when AC/DC were first releasing albums and whatnot in the late 70s, that could have happened. But other people that are maybe a bit older than me might be better off to comment on that in the comments, because it would be interesting to know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Australia has been funny with certain albums. Like I remember Cannibal Corpse, Butchered at Birth wasn't allowed to be sold here because of the cover and things like that. But I remember that because that was an album I wanted to get and I couldn't get it for a while. But as far as AC/DC, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Australia is not wasn't an overly religious country back then, and it's still not. It's got pockets of it, but yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm interested to know that. Actually, I'll have to do some Googling and find out. I'm sure it probably did happen.
So do you remember a Crimson Idol, the Wasp album?
Yes.
Yeah. So you remember the cover has got Blackie Lawless lying on his bed, and it's like the way the lighting is coming in, it looks like he's on the cross. So one day at school, it was break time, and we noticed, myself and my friends noticed, it's awfully quiet outside. What could possibly be going on? So what's the name? We break time ends, and another one of my girlfriends at the time comes up to me, and she's like, I just want to let you know, we've just all been in assembly, and this is a school of 800 people. We've just all been in assembly, and the head girl took your technical drawing file. So we had these files that we put all our technical drawing projects in. I only did that as a subject for a year, and you could decorate it however you want. Part of my decoration was the cover for Crimson Idol, like the whole one side was a Crimson Idol. She held it up to the school, apparently crying, and asked everybody to pray for me because apparently I was definitely going straight to hell. So circling back to what I said about the page that I used to run, most of that crazy bullshit that I came up with there was like pro wrestling meets the lunatics that I grew up with.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I love it.
But as I said, people literally, I mean, apparently people were weeping openly, like how can he listen to this? How can his parents have let him down this way?
I just don't understand how people care so much about what people listen to. That's the bit that gets me. It's like, what is it? Why does it concern people so much? It really does my head in.
No, I totally agree. I can't understand how. I mean, now it's kind of changed. No one really cares so much about what you listen to, as long as it's as long as the politics of the person is right. If you listen to anything that's outside where somebody colors slightly outside the lines, then you're also evil. Now, the one thing that I fucking detest is the Gen Z metal scribe backlash to Pantera. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
as soon as I read any of that stuff, I just want to go, you slow your roll. You
Yes.
fuck.
And how frustrating is it?
There's certain people that you just don't speak ill of.
Exactly. And you still hear that going back to AC/DC. You hear that a lot about AC/DC too. And you go into metal groups and people go out of their way to make posts about, I don't get what the fuss is about AC/DC. They're absolutely crap. And it's like, do they have any idea? I mean, you talk to most artists, they have been influenced in some way, shape, or form by AC/DC. There's very few that haven't been. And yeah, does my head in too.
I would be a hypocrite, however, if I railed against certain people on that too much. It's more like, what I don't like is when people try and act like, you're a scumbag for listening to Pantera just because Dimebag had the Confederate flag on his guitar. I mean, fuck, Lynyrd Skynyrd had that as, their logo practically. But I do, when it comes to kind of metal sacred cows, I have said some hurtful things about Iron Maiden in the past, and I'm sorry, but I still don't. I liked the CD in question was a Real Dead one. I liked the tracks on a Real Dead one. I liked those old songs, and I thought a Real Dead one was cool versions of those songs. But for the most part, I don't know, man. There's something that I've always felt was missing from Iron Maiden. Number one, and number two, I don't like sing along choruses. I don't like anything that sounds like people could chant it at a football game. None of that sort of stuff. I don't want any normality like that in the music that I listen to.
Yeah, no, I completely get you. I have to admit, I mean, I've listened to Iron Maiden before, but I miss the whole Iron Maiden train. They've got a massive diehard fan base. I get that.
Oh yeah, but fuck yes.
I just missed that boat completely.
No, I saw them live about probably 7-8 years ago. At the O2 in London, and it was nice because I got the tickets free for starters because I wouldn't have paid for it, but I got I had box seats and stuff, so I had a beautiful view of the stage. Sound was great, food, booze, everything, and then you could see the audience, but I mean the crowd was so into it. There's people for whom, that's why I say I have said some hurtful things that possibly would have upset a few folk, but it's it's just poking fun at the end of the day, but. You could tell on the faces of the people in that crowd, they were not there for poking fun at Iron Maiden.
You bite your tongue in that crowd.
Oh, fuck yes. It's like, hey, Bruce Dickinson is an overrated singer. What? That's the quickest way to get mobbed. I mean, second only to saying anything bad about Rob Halford. But so in terms of like stuff you've been listening to, stuff that's coming out, what is on the radar at the moment? What's been getting your attention? First question, and second question, what are you most looking forward to this year?
Oh, as I said before, my focus is these smaller bands, these smaller artists. When I say small, they're not small, but I mean they're lesser known. So that's just continually on my radar. And I feel like the more I'm becoming known, the caliber is becoming better and better. I mean, we only talk about albums that we listen to and we like. Because I've had people say before, oh, she just likes everything. Well, no, I fucking don't. It's just that when I talk to you guys about it, it's one that I've really enjoyed. So
we spoke about that before. I mean, what is the point of I mean, again, I say this now straight after I've spoken about making fun of Iron Maiden, but in a review context, what is the point of running down a band? Why am I going to listen through? If I listen to an album, I know within 2 songs whether I'm going to like it or not. If I've listened to 2 songs and I've thought this is shit, I'm not going to then force myself with the limited time that I have to listen through the whole thing just so that I can come on and make some snide remarks. It's like, well, the guitar playing really isn't up to par, and blah blah blah. The riffs just sound so derivative and boring. It's a I'd much rather talk about something that I like and that I think people that watch the podcast or listen to the podcast would enjoy also.
And that's the thing, I've gotten quite familiar with the people who do follow me as far as their tastes and what they like. And, what I review is quite different to what Vinny reviews because he's more sort of that esoteric kind of atmospheric guy, whereas I'm the real nasty, raw, just violent black metal and death metal type. I mean, I love it all, but yeah, so There's been some great ones that we've done this year. There's one that I'm reviewing this week by Drugoth, and they're so unique. They're from Australia, a duo from Brizzy. I won't say too much about the album, but I've had a pre-listen, and I just love their concept because it's all very war-based. It's all very Middle Earth, J.R.R. Tolkien, and it's from the orcs' perspective. And I know that might sound really corny, but when you hear the music, it's very punk, crusty black metal, and the vocals are just completely unique. And you actually feel like you're sort of in the orcs, I don't know what you call it, like bloody battlegrounds, and they're calling.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting for them because this is their first full-length album. Normally they would have a grind track duration, so very, very quick. And this time they've done proper length tracks, which is very exciting. And just seeing their maturity and their sophistication in their songwriting and their music change has been very exciting because I've been following them right from the start. And a lot of Australian stuff. There was a bit of a lull in the Aussie releases last year. The US BM scene was off its face, and it still is, of course, because it's very, very strong. But there's a lot of Australian stuff coming out, so it's very exciting, particularly from my hometown, Newcastle, which is even more exciting because we've been a very heavily hardcore based city since the 90s, and nothing wrong with that, but it's really great to see bands like Hatescape, which are a death metal band, Evocatus, which are, I don't know, like a melodic death metal battle type band, and A Morning Path. I think everyone needs to look out for them. I've heard some of their tracks and they're exceptional. So there's lots of big things happening, and I just want to be able to do it all, but with work and the time that it takes to put everything together, it's hard to cover. But I'm trying to find ways where I can do it where even if I'm not doing full reviews, I can just give these guys a bit of exposure, whether it's adding a bit of their track to my story or big albums. I was looking forward to, I'm a big Gojira fan. I was looking forward to their new album. I'm a little bit...
The singles haven't impressed you. I've not even listened to it yet. I like their previous stuff, and I said on the news segment a little while ago that I know it's probably a record I'll end up enjoying if I listen to it. But it's they're one of those bands where I'm never excited about it when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll be with you. It'll take some listening, it'll take some growing and appreciating. But the first few singles that I've heard, I've been a bit, that's not. I don't know, they've gone a little bit too hipster, maybe, if that's the word to say, but yeah.
Too friendly to the Metal Hammer editorial staff.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you? What are you looking forward to?
Very top of the list, without any shadow of a doubt, the Antichrist Imperium. The first and second records were both my favorite albums of the year when they came out, and I have a suspicion the next one is going to be very high up on the list also. The New Voices album, also featuring members of the Antichrist Imperium, that I'm also looking forward to very, very much. I know that Panzerfaust are putting out a new one this year. The last two were so incredible that I know this new one is going to be awesome as well. I'm trying to think what else is in the offing that I know should happen. I think Marduk will probably do a new record, although they might hold back until bands can start touring again. I hope that it's going to be better than Victoria, because I thought Victoria had one tremendous track on, which was Silent Night, the last song, but I thought almost everything else on the album, in comparison to the albums previously, were substandard. It was stuff that if they had written that during the recording for Serpent Sermon, even Plague Angel, it would have ended up on the cutting room floor. It wouldn't have made it to the record. I'm trying to think what else do I know is coming up that should be really, really good this year. Oh, there's a band that was sent to me by Apocalyptic Witchcraft called Ageless Oblivion.
Okay.
A UK band. They're in the vein of some of the darker death metal. I think when it comes to death metal, I'm really enjoying that really kind of dark style like Ulcerate have done, and Ageless Oblivion are they sort of play in the same camp. That record is outstanding. And I'm going to have them on the podcast as well, probably in the next couple of weeks, nearer when that record is released. So it's absolutely brilliant. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's Ken Mode will hopefully release a new album, but I'm not sure how high up on the list that's going to be for a lot of people, just based on the fact that they're not exactly black or death metal, but I fucking love them. And I think Jesse, who I think his episode will have been on by the time this one goes on, he's a fucking badass dude. I think he's a great guy. And then who knows? I think it's going to be interesting to see what comes out this year, because I think so many people have been sat at home doing nothing. That they've had time to record. I know for a fact that one of my favorite bands are bringing out a new record, but their management has sworn me to secrecy, because it's I'm also going to hit my episode 100 this year, and I've already reached out to them to see if I can get the vocalist on the on the show. That's hopefully going to happen, but there's kind of a short list of people I would love to have on for episode 100, and I'll say it anyway. People can kind of will guess based on how much I talk about them, but the short list is Attila from Mayhem, Nick from Paradise Lost, Morgan from Marduk, and then failing those three, Born Stars. No, I don't know. Failing those three, I might go to someone who I think is like, embodies the spirit of the show best. So, and there's tons of people that can be that. Mike from Tombs being one of them.
Right.
And hopefully Tombs bring out some another EP or something. I don't know whether Mike is actually working on something. I know they still flying pretty high off the back of the album. But hopefully a couple of bands. I think it's not unlikely that a couple of bands will put out EPs, or just something to kind of make sure that they stay in the rotation ahead of the issue with touring lifted. But just going way back to what you said about the shows that you guys had, am I to assume now that the restrictions around indoor gatherings and stuff like that has been lifted, or did you kind of have to have a 2-meter gap in between each audience member?
We did. So when we had our first two festivals, Dystopian Prophecies 1 and 2, the venue that we had chosen, which is a well-known metal venue, the Crowbar in Sydney, it's usually got, I think it's a 700 crowd capacity normally, but because of the size of the venue and the 4 square meter rule that we had to have, and it was seated, we were only able to have 70 sellable tickets. But you know what? It was still an amazing vibe. I think people were just so excited to get to see extreme music live, and it was brilliant. So the next show that we're doing, Invocation Rituals, which is in June, everything's relaxed. There's basically dancing now. People don't have to sit down, so the capacity is back to normal. It's really exciting because, the music industry in Australia, I'm not sure what it's like in the UK, but the venues and the scene was the first to go, and it was the last to sort of come back. So we're pretty excited about that.
No, over here, they continue to trample as much as they possibly can underfoot. We've been in a lockdown since before Christmas.
Crazy.
You wouldn't say it if you drive around. The motorway is still really busy. Things are still, people still seem to be, going out, but restaurants can't open, bars can't open, and now they're talking about having a scannable vaccine passport to even allow you into a venue once everything does reopen. So I don't know how long it's going to take for things to get back to normal. I'm not sure what the state of the venues are either. I mean, I know obviously I've spoken before about the Astoria and all the great venues closing. That happened ages ago. But the ones that have remained over the years, like the Underworld, the Black Heart. I mean, I know the Black Heart just did a fundraising campaign to basically stay afloat because they weren't getting any rental relief or any support from the government. Yeah. What's happening with the Underworld, I don't know. I mean, they could probably avoid tax and stuff just by taking some of the trash from Camden and just putting it in front of their door. People forget that it's a legal building. No. Actually, I was going to say no offense to anybody who lives in Camden, but frankly, no apologies. That place is run like a fucking asshole. So anyway, so I'm genuinely not sure what's going to happen, and it's such a shame, man, because there was a period of time where the UK live music scene or the London live music scene was the most fucking awesome thing on the face of the earth. I absolutely lived for it. I've been over the last. I worked out once. I'd been in a 10-year period from 2002 to 2012. I went to over 600 shows, and it
Wow.
no doubt had a detrimental effect on my hearing because my
Absolutely.
girlfriend has to keep repeating herself. But it's it was some of the best times of my life, and I often think now, especially, like, I wish I could go back in time and tell myself, like, really appreciate the next, what you're experiencing right now, because it's not going to last forever.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty excited for. I've actually got a show. Matt Skip Sanders, who's a pretty big metal icon here in Australia. He's an amazing drummer. He's just about to embark on a Metal from the Grave tour. So that's going to be the first, and that's in 2 weeks in Sydney that I'll be going to. And that's going to be the first standing show that I've been at since everything opened up. So it's pretty exciting, but we've been very lucky. I think Australians are pretty well aware that we're in a pretty good position, and, it may have seemed really bad for us because it's what but when you're hearing stories of, from yourself and other people in the UK and America and places in Europe, it's horrific. And
in Germany now there's another lockdown coming, apparently, over Easter, and we had some fuckface over here say the other day that we'll have to learn to live with lockdowns for the rest of our lives. It's like, really? I don't, there's a point where you go, like, I'm not in prison, so either you give us the vaccine and it works, or we learn to live with it and we treat it like the flu. But I want the government to fuck off and get out of interfering in my life. I mean, the government should have as small a role to play in my life as is possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Final note, just as you were mentioning about getting Australian musicians and stuff back together again. Alchemist, I have spoken about them so many times. I've only ever exchanged messages with them, but I need to introduce you to Adam Agius. You need to convince them to get back together, record another album. They were such a great band. I don't understand why more people don't love them.
So who were they? Sorry, what did you?
Alchemist.
Alchemist. I thought you said something else. Sorry, I was like, I missed that. I'm like, I don't know that band. Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, I'll message them.
Yes, to message them and tell them. Yeah. Jackie from Into the Necrosphere is desperate for you to reunite. I thought the Levitation Hex, which Adam did, which was his band after Alchemist, I mean, that basically sounded like an Alchemist record anyway. That was cool, but man, like Tripsis and all those records, so fucking cool and so disgracefully overrated.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We definitely have some pretty dead set good metal here in this country. I'll say that very proudly. I'm very proud of what we produce here, that's for sure. We do it well.
You should be. All right, ma'am, I need to bounce. The demands of my 16-hour workday are about to catch up to me. So thank you very, very much for your time. As always, and we'll definitely do it again. I think I should preemptively book you for part 1 of the best 20 of 2021.
I'd love to do that again with you. That would be great.
Yeah. I think we'll definitely do that again.
Sounds good.
But anything that you wanna pitch to the millions of people listening, or remind anyone to go check out?
First of all, thank you very much for having me on here again. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you, Jackie, face to face, because I know we do talk offline. But yeah, I guess to anyone who is in a position where they can get to shows, now's the best time than ever to put your hands in your pockets and buy a ticket, get there, buy some merch. We've whinged about it for so long about how much we've missed the scene. Then we whinged about having to sit down. Now we can stand, particularly in Australia, I'm talking. So just get off your fucking ass and support the scene. It's just so important, or it's not going to survive, nor will the venues. So yeah, I'll just leave that with people.
on that bombshell. And yeah, you're right about us speaking offline. Obviously, if you could let me know when the wank video arrives. I have tried to resend it a couple of times. That was Diabolical Imminence by Spectral Wound out of Canada off their new record, A Diabolic Thirst. One I will definitely be reviewing on an upcoming episode, but I thought I would throw out a little taster, considering the tone of mine and Kelly's conversation. And massive thank you to her for coming on the show. Always fun having her on. If you don't yet follow her channel, as I said at the top of the podcast, then make sure that you do. Kelly T Black Metal Reviews. It's on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And in my opinion, she is one of the best sources of information for new obscure music that you will find anywhere, including the band that I'm about to talk about right now. So Drugoth was a band that you will have heard her describing to me on the show. They're from Brisbane, Australia. They've just put out their new record, Unto the Darkness Sworn. They are Tolkien-inspired black metal, which I have to admit, when I first heard her describe it, was of less interest to me, because generally speaking, as much as I love The Lord of the Rings, when bands bring it into their sound, it very often heads into some pretty nerdy territory. However, I will say that Drugoth are anything but. They are at their core really gritty, raw, grim, grade A black metal, bleakness and goodness thrown into one. They wear their Dark Throne influence certainly very, very proudly on their sleeve, but they also inject enough of their personality and a real irreverent Antipodean attitude into the mix, so as to sound interesting and unique from start to finish. And one of the things that is most unique about the record is the vocal style. That does take a little bit of time to get used to, but I mean, after 2-3 tracks, I found myself really embracing it for how distinct it sounds. But the thing that really, really makes this band and this album in particular are the riffs, and every single track from start to finish is anchored by huge fuck-off riffs that not only sound badass, but they're also able to conjure some really dark, brooding atmosphere without the band ever having to use keyboards or anything like that to enhance what they're doing. And that, in my opinion, is an achievement in itself. On the rare occasion that they do kind of slow things down and they break out the acoustic guitars for something a little atmospheric, it leads to Higher Than the Firmament, which is the final break on the record right before the in my opinion, probably the album's high point, which is the title track, and it is what I'm going to play to you right now. This is Drugoth with a track called Unto the Darkness Sworn. Drugoth with a song called Unto the Darkness Sworn off of the album by the same name. Go check them out on Bandcamp, and if you buy something, then let them know that Jackson at Into the Necrosphere sent you. Hopefully they will come on the show at some point as well. And thanks very much to Kelly for a stellar recommendation. Speaking of recommendations, I strongly recommend that you check out my next band as well. This is a band called Throne out of Jackson, Michigan. They've just put out their first full-length. The album is called Pestilent Dawn, and it is the follow-up to their 2018 EP, Altar of Dying. Available right now on Redefining Darkness Records. It is described as blackened death metal, and I must admit that I'm starting to find the definition for that genre increasingly too broad for my liking. I mean, I think based on some of the bands that I've seen referred to as blackened death metal, you could probably start throwing the likes of Nile and Hate Eternal into the mix as well. That's neither here nor there, but just thought I would mention. As it happens, I think Throne are a band that could probably quite comfortably open for either of those bands at this stage of their career. And if you're in the audience checking them out, I would imagine that you would be rather impressed at their ability to unleash short, sharp shocks of just absolute sonic mayhem and violence, which they do very much in the style of those bands, but kind of with a little bit of a twist of Emperor riffing thrown in for good measure. I think that they're a band that, ensure that the album never becomes monotonous. They vary up the tempos, they vary up the atmospheres, and they really kind of make sure that they're giving the riffing a chance to breathe, as well as the frankly stellar drumming of Colin Perpanaghi, who I believe is the name of their drummer. I probably raped his surname, but so be it. Either way, this is an album that I find immensely satisfying. I also want to mention as a side note, I think the album cover art is absolutely fucking spectacular. Really distinct, and I think really, really capturing the vibe of the record overall. On that note, here is a track off of Pestilent Dawn. This is a song called And They Shall Weep. And They Shall Weep by Throne, off of their debut record, Pestilent Dawn, that's available right now on Redefining Darkness. Definitely go and check them out, and if you buy anything off their Bandcamp, then you know what to do. Next week, I will be reviewing the new Ageless Oblivion, which I have a feeling is going to be one of the best of 2021. And I'm also going to be talking about Spectral Wound that I played earlier. So 2 cool reviews coming your way. I feel like 2021 hasn't gotten off to quite as strong a start as 2020 just yet. But I also think that there's been a bunch of people sitting at home beating their meat, and when they're not doing that, they've been fucking around on their guitars or their basses and writing some cool music. So I do think the second half of this year is going to be huge. But I guess we will have to wait and see in the meantime for an inkling of what might be coming up. Let's turn to the news, and we will start with Metal Storm. And the first headline is Serge Tankian releases a new lyric video straight off of his latest monstrosity entitled Elasticity. The song is called Your Mom, and I can only imagine that it will have all the poetry and lyrical genius of some of the other muck that he has put out in his career. Moving on, King 810 launched new video. I must admit, I think that King 810, are a pretty underrated band in my opinion. Their first album I didn't like very much, but La Petite Mort I think is absolutely fantastic. I did find it funny that that this was kind of the band that Roadrunner were touting as the next Slipknot at one point. But I suspect that all of the arrests, and I think at one point, I can't remember, but I think David Gunn might have been caught trafficking in AK-47s. There was all sorts of crazy shit with them. But either way, they didn't turn out to be the new Slipknot, which in my opinion is a blessing. And I've not listened to the new music yet, but I will definitely check that out. What else? John Schaefer pleaded guilty to 2 crimes related to the U.S. Capitol insurrection. I know that Dee Snider had plenty to say about this, which was great, including the fact that he took issue with both John being at the Capitol, but then also John agreeing to be I think he's turned witness for the state prosecution. I believe that his charges that or that have been thrown at him would potentially garner him 10 and 20 years in jail if he's found guilty of them. And frankly speaking, you can apply the old snitches get stitches mantra as much as you want, but when you're a 52-year-old man staring down the barrel of potentially 30 years in jail, I think most of us would possibly say, whatever you want to know, Mr. State Attorney, I'm more than happy to tell you. The only question that I would have here is I certainly hope that some of the folks that have been involved in the most recent Minneapolis riots will be held to the same account. I read overnight there was apparently shooting at police. They've burned down another load of buildings. Everything is smashed up again. And then you had moron Maxine Waters running around saying that the police need to get even, or the protesters need to get even more confrontational. So more confrontational than burning down buildings. What could that possibly mean? Which, by the way, I also find it rich that she would say something like that, considering the fact that the Democrats now have the House and the Senate. So you can't actually blame Trump on it for anything anymore. It's kind of on their watch now, and it's on their watch to clean up. So why you would continue to kind of spew that sort of nonsense, when the responsibility now rests with you, I don't know. But I guess the responsibility will never rest with communists. Anyway, I've said it before. I think John was a absolute moron to go to this. I think the whole Capitol insurrection thing was some of the dumbest shit that I've ever seen in my life. But there's dumbness on both sides of the aisle, which I think for various reasons the media and politicians continue to encourage. Let's move on. Speaking of dumbness, I know this is going to come up in a second, but it's obviously been an ongoing source of entertainment, this whole Fear Factory saga. I know that Burton Bell was in an interview with, I think it was Metal Hammer this week, where he was talking about how he basically hates Dino and hates everybody else in the band, and didn't want to talk to them, and only joined up or only agreed to the reunion as a means to promote Ascension of the Watchers, his other band. As it happens, the new single dropped on this past Friday. The album is going to be called Aggression Continuum, and the song is called Disruptor. I have to say, as much as I am a fan of Soul of the New Machine and Demanufacture, this is the absolute nadir of the band's career so far. The song is completely and utterly atrocious. It features some of the laziest riffing I've heard from Dino in a long time. I mean, all of the hallmarks of the band are there. From a technical perspective, the drumming is excellent. It sounds a little mechanical, but that's been Fear Factory's signature for most of their career. And everything else is there, the keyboards, blah, blah, blah. But I just think the song is fucking terrible. And much as I, have always loved Burton's singing, there is so much auto-tune on his voice right now that I can only imagine how bad he would have sounded without that auto-tune on. As a matter of fact, I think if Dino truly wants to get even with Burton for anything, just release the just give us the raw tracks from the studio. And then the other thing that caught me about that song, and I've only listened to it once and plan to hopefully never listen to it ever again, the lyrics are so completely and utterly terrible. I've long tired of the whole man turning into machine fucking nonsense. How many more times you can sing about that, I don't know. I think unless your name is Red Harvest, I've no interest in hearing about it anymore. But on this instance, it sounds like something out of Self-Help for Dummies or something like that. It's just absolutely terrible. So I not want to hold back on my opinion. I just thought I would share. I think as I called it last week, Aggression Continuum is going to be a fucking load of muck. Bewitcher dropped new video. My friend, buddy. Bewitcher dropped new video. I've seen a few people talk about this recently, and I must confess, I tried to listen to this album on Friday because it dropped this past Friday with a view to possibly reviewing it at some point in the future, but best I don't do so, because Cursed Be Thy Kingdom, in my opinion, sounds like a load of fucking toilet water turned into black metal. I would actually say, I'd use the phrase black metal very loosely. I mean, I don't think that they describe themselves as black metal anyway, but it's just not my vibe. I am much more of a Spectral Wound man who I spoke about, or I played them earlier, and I've spoken about them already. But just a reminder once again that A Diabolic Thirst is now streaming online on YouTube, and you definitely need to check that out. It is a superb record, and kudos to these guys for putting it out. Absolutely fantastic stuff, in my opinion. Caliban, absolute drivel. I don't even want to talk about that band. One band that did release a new track this weekend that was surprisingly good, Pestilence. Now, again, I've spoken about the fact that even though Patrick Mamelli isn't everybody's favorite dude in the death metal scene, I mean, the one thing that you cannot take away from this man is that he knows his way around a riff, and he knows his way around some fucking badass vocals. The headline here reads, Pestilence are premiering a music video for the new single called Morbus Protagononium, or again, I'm not going to bother to try and even correct my pronunciation there. It's the first song taken off the band's new album, Exitum, which is going to be released in June via Agonia Records. There is a real testimony of the Ancients vibe to this track, which, to me immediately is excellent, as much as I've liked some of the recent stuff they've done. But it feels like a conscious throwback to that old Pestilence sound, and I think this is going to be a superb album. So really, really looking forward to that, and kudos to Patrick and the boys. By the way, speaking of Patrick, it reminds me, I'm going to have Kelly Schaefer from Atheist back on the show pretty soon as well. He's been busy with his other project, so he'll be talking about that, no doubt. I'll get an update from him as to what's happening with Atheist. But he's a chatty Cathy, so always fun having him on the show, and he will definitely be on again. As I said, probably next month or two. What else is there to talk about? Pitch Shifter, remastered edition of Industrial coming in June. I was wondering whether they've decided to get back together again, which, probably not something that I think ought be encouraged, especially not considering what they ended up doing in their last record. Don't really see much else that's capturing my attention. Paradise Lost have confirmed a UK tour with Moonspell. I don't want to talk about the new Moonspell album, but I will definitely go and see Paradise Lost. It's a UK tour as well, so my opinion, I will go and see Paradise Lost wherever they play, regardless of who's supporting them. And Obsidian, I go back and forth between that album. I still feel like the rockier, gothy stuff that they did on that record, I feel like that's what they wanted to make. And I think that's how the album should have ended up sounding. But I don't think it's a bad record at all. And I mean, they're still a band that I would say not a week goes by that I don't listen to Paradise Lost at least 2 to 3 times. Oh man, this was such shitty news. Exodus drummer Tom Hunting diagnosed with cancer. He's been diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma, which I believe is a stomach disorder. So there we go. Statement from Tom Hunting, which I shall read. Today I'll be starting treatment for a squamous cell carcinoma. It's a gastric tumor that was diagnosed in my upper stomach in February. I'm making this public to raise awareness for people to pay attention to symptoms of stomach and esophageal issues. If they persist, please go get it checked out. I'm not going to be sheepish talking about it. I feel that if I can help someone with what I've learned, or someone out there has information to share with me, it's a win-win. When you can name the enemy, it's empowering and you're one step closer to killing it. Okay, you've heard the bad news. The good news is he feels great physically. I'm going to beat this thing like a fucking snare drum that owes me money. I've had great doctors and a great support system that is an army in itself. I'm ready for the fight. We have a lot to celebrate this year with the release of what will be a career-defining album and tours to follow. I'm stoked for everyone to hear it and even more excited to get out there and play some of it. I will see you all very soon. Cheers. Get well soon, Tom. I spent an evening on the booze with Tom and with Gary back in the Chronicles of Chaos days. They were both just absolutely badass guys. Yeah, man, sad, very, very sad news about Tom. And I really do. I mean, he sounds like he's absolutely up for it, or up for the fight, I should say. And I hope that he pulls through it. With that kind of attitude, based on everything that I've heard about, how positive thinking can help you overcome this, I definitely fancy his chances. Gojira, 4th single of upcoming album unveiled. I think Kelly and I, if memory serves me correctly, actually spoke about this in the podcast, or we spoke about it offline. But either way, this is an album that I'm less and less interested in hearing with every passing day. Emperor confirm a Night of Imperial Wrath 2021 live stream. It says 2021 marks 30 years since the formation of Emperor. With the current state of the world and inability of touring, the mighty Norwegians announce an exclusive streaming event to celebrate the occasion. The show will take place at Notodden Theatre on the 23rd of May. The set list will feature tracks from the entire catalogue, as well as very special guest appearances by original bass player Mortis, who appeared on the Wrath of the Tyrant demo, As the Shadows Rise EP and Emperor mini album, and ex-drummer Faust, who appeared on the As the Shadows Rise EP, Emperor mini album, as well as the landmark album In the Nightside Eclipse. That is one that I may well check out. I do wish that Samoth would hurry up and give us a new Wretched End record already, because I could take 20 Wretched End records over a single that Ishon might be releasing. But when it comes to Emperor, especially if they're going to be having some of the old members back, that sounds like something to stick in the old diary for sure. I'm going to look at one more, and then we'll go check out the Democrats' Guide to rock music, Blabbermouth. Let's see what Metal Storm has for me. yeah, just more bullshit about Fear Factory bringing out a new album. Nothing that I need to repeat here. So let's move on to Blabberpoo. Yeah, as I said, D. Snyder rips piece of shit John Schaefer. He's an embarrassment to the metal community. So is your hair, Snyder. D. Snyder has blasted John Schaefer as a quote-unquote piece of shit who is quote-unquote an embarrassment to the metal community. The Twisted Singer made his comment 2 days after the Iced Earth guitarist pleaded guilty for his role in the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. And yeah, here he starts the whole snitches get stitches business and blah, blah, blah. Like I said, man, if I were in Schaefer's shoes, I mean, one, I wouldn't waste my time at rioting and, you know, being an asshole. But the other thing is, if someone told me you're going to be in prison for 30 years, and most likely will only see the light of day by the time that you're 70, well, not to mention the fact that if you're in prison in America, I mean, it's not exactly a fucking cushy ride. I probably would have agreed to some sort of plea bargain with the state myself. Anyway, I've already spoken about that, so I'm not going to go into that in any more detail. If you're watching this on YouTube, Sebastian Bach is increasingly looking like a woman who's had extraordinary amounts of black market Botox pumped into her face. Nothing actually ended up happening with his sing-off challenge to Chris Jericho as well. I mean, why he started that, I don't know, but you know, you get in the face of Le Champion, you're immediately in my bad books. And just as a side note, AEW over the last couple of weeks has been so fucking good. It is astounding. I know there was WrestleMania, and you know, a couple of people really liked that. I thought it was garbage, the bits that I saw. WWE continues to be a load of total muck. But if ever you were into pro wrestling at any point in your life, and you want to find something that'll give you a reason to get back into it, then AEW is the ticket. Yeah, just a side recommendation. Testament's Alex Skolnick looks back on his brief stint as Ozzy Osbourne's guitarist in 1995. I didn't even know that he was. I mean, you know, again, I know I'm old, but I think I might have. I think that little nugget might have just slipped my mind. But either way, you know, I've said before my views on Alex. Don't agree with him politically, but good God, what a guitarist! And I would love to have one of the Testament guys on here. So that's a hint in case anyone who knows Chuck Billy is watching this. He would definitely be on my list of big guests, like David Ellefson. So, you know, like again, I was blown away by the fact that David would even be willing to come on. And best of all, I mean, you know, he really gave me a decent chunk of his time. He's a busy dude. You know, he was very, very, very chatty and talkative. So you guys will see what I mean when that posts. But, you know, I have a list of dream guests that I've mentioned before. Attila from Mayhem is one. Phil Anselmo is the other. Mortis from Mayhem, I think, would be fucking awesome. I'd love to get Morgan on as well. You know, there's a few guys, but you know, Dave Ellefson was, you know, I'm not sure he would have been on that dream list, but I think, you know, in terms of profile, it's a very big deal. And the thing is, I've said to you all before, the strategy is get, you know, big guest in, get eyeballs and ears onto the podcast, and that benefits all of the bands that are you know, lesser known and in the underground, which you know, is why I will be timing my Ageless Oblivion review as an example to coincide with Dave's appearance on the show, because I think they're fucking amazing. I think they deserve a hell of a lot more recognition than they've gotten to date. Max Cavalera's Go Ahead and Die releases animated music video for second single Toxic Freedom. That first Go Ahead and Die single was very cool. I actually haven't listened to Toxic Freedom yet, but I will check it out. You know, Max, again, for all his faults, can't doubt this man's sincerity and you know, the fact that he stays very, very busy. I think that is pretty much all that's worth talking about this week. So I will most likely, with a sign or with with all these pictures of engagement rings coming up, I'll cut the shit and finish off and wrap up the show so that I can get to work and earn that engagement ring. Because like I said, I at the end of this year, I'm going to have to produce some sparkles, or I think my girlfriend's patience is going to wear a little thin with old Space Mountain. And therefore, on that bombshell, we will end this week. I hope that you guys have enjoyed it. I know that I alluded many times over the course of my conversation with Kelly to my satirical page that I used to run on Facebook. It's still up there, so if all of you go check it out. I mean, there's no direct connection to me, but one day I might reveal who it is. There's about 50,000 or so followers on there, and I've kind of on a couple of occasions thought maybe I should steer them in the direction of the podcast, but if I think about all of the lunatics that over the years have messaged me on there, I dread to think of some of the people that may come out of the woodwork if I did. But anyway, one day I'll reveal it to this very audience. Anyways, like I said, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's episode. Wherever you are, whatever it is you're doing, I hope that you're safe and healthy. Go check out Kelly T. Go check out Drugoth and Throne. And also come back next week for my conversation with David Ellefson. Until then, from the mean streets of Great Shefford, I am bidding all of you bad motherfuckers a fond farewell.